weekly update for the Tabula Rasa racing. Today is August 11th, so this is going to be my weekly post of how the training went this week for Ali and I. As I said before, we are training for the Tour de Pink, which is October 4th through the 6th in Princeton, New Jersey. So it's a 200-mile weekend for breast cancer fundraising. Today, this week, we had a really decent week of training. I had some good runs. I had some good swim intervals this week with some nice, decent pacing. Starting to see a little bit of speed coming in. This week, Ali had she did her long ride during the week, so she did it on Friday. She had 4 hours on the books. She was a little anxious and a little nervous. I couldn't go out on Friday with her, so this is the first time that she's kind of gone out for a ride like that for 4 hours alone. She went out on the Capitol Trail, which is that dedicated bike path that I talked about in a previous post. But, I just wanted her to go out. And I'm not concerned about miles at all. Miles is not what I am looking for out of her performance on her long rides, or any of her rides for that matter. Looking for seat time and how she manages nutrition and hydration. The miles, they are what they are. So the miles don't really matter to me. But I know that she had 4 hours on the books on Friday. She went out there early in the morning, which is a good plan to try and beat the heat a little bit. So we talked about her nutrition the night before. I helped her kind of walk through it. Talk about what were going to be her requirements that she was going to need. How many packs of chews do you want? Do you want waffles? Coming in with liquid nutrition. How to manage a 4-hour ride. So what I had suggested for her to do is to go ride an hour out, turn around, come back. So there's half the ride there. And then refill water bottles that way, refill the nutrition, and then go back out for another hour, turn around and come back. So there's your 4 hours. So really she was no more than an hour away from her car throughout the day. And, she could go in and halfway point, get some cold water to refill bottles, and a refill of some liquid nutrition for electrolytes, and if there was any solid nutrition that she needed to refill. I got text through her. I got text from her throughout the ride. I just said, let me know when you turn around after the first hour. So I got some text, and I got a phone call from her when she got back to the car at the halfway point. She said she was running. She was tired, which I get. I understand. She had a pretty decent week of training, so she's training under fatigue. And the way that I approach my coaching is I'm not one to give prescribed days off. So I'm not the kind of guy that goes out and says, you have Mondays off, you have, this day off, and every single Monday you have off. I'm not that kind of coach. What I do is we manage the fatigue. I get feedback from athletes, and they tell me how they're feeling. The longer it takes their legs or whatnot to warm up before a workout, if you go out for a run and you do your dynamic stretches ahead of time before you go out and run, never evaluate a run during that first mile. You're just having that conversation with yourself, what do I have in me today? How am I feeling? And then make the evaluations as the runs continue on whether you'd be able to hit any prescribed targets or intensity levels. So once I start to see that the athlete is saying, it's taking me longer and longer to warm up, then that's when I start to look at, reducing and backing down a little bit. What I do typically do is, for an athlete that's working with me for a long stretch of time, which I do have a couple, I will typically do 4 weeks. So I'll build for 4 weeks, and on that fourth week I'll do a rollback week. So that's a cutback in volume, anywhere between 5 to 10%. whether that volume is in miles or if it's in time. I typically do a lot of my training plans in time, unless there's something else that I'm working with an athlete on. And so we'll build for 4 weeks, roll it back, and then we'll start over and build, roll back. But I'm not the one that will give you, Mondays off. It's just not, I believe training consistently is what generates results, and being able to manage fatigue, train under fatigue. And when it comes time for race time, you're fully tapered, you're rested, you're fed, and you're ready to roll. Because on race day, you're going to have to learn how to manage fatigue. And so if you don't learn how to manage that during the training process, your race day is going to be a little bit more challenging than what it could be. So like I said, Allie's long ride, 4 hours. We had a conversation where we haven't really set up her bike a whole lot when it comes to, spare tubes and such. She's done a lot of her riding on the Capital Trail, which is a bike dedicated path. But I said, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. You're on a bike dedicated path, so you don't have like glass and everything else that you should be too concerned about. Out of 7 years that I've been doing this, I've had a flat tire maybe like 5 times. I can count them on one hand. So I was like, just go out and be okay. If anything does happen, I'm just a phone call away. And so she went out, and lo and behold, on that 3rd hour, she calls me and says, I have a flat. Blew my mind. So I was like, okay. Well, so I packed the car, got my tube. I took the tube out of my bike kit, and drove out. So it took me about 45 minutes to get out to her. Took me about 3 or 4 minutes to actually change the tire and then turn right around and go back in 45 minutes. But the one thing that I will say is I was just incredibly proud of her, because she could have put the bike on the car, says, look, I've already ridden, 3 hours. I'm 50 minutes away from my car. I've had a good ride. This is good enough. I'm kind of, bummed now that I've had this flat, so I've had to sit here for 40 to 50 minutes waiting for a change, and I'm just done. But no, what she did was she got back on her bike and pedaled away. And I was so proud of her for gathering that mental toughness to really just kind of go out and just finish out what she started. And then at the end of the 4 hours, got the text from her. She says, I'm all done. And she came home and rested the rest of the day. So I was incredibly proud of her performance. I think if my memory serves correctly, I think she got about 63 miles in for the 4 hours. But again, to me, the miles aren't important. It's the saddle time and learning how to manage the ride is what's more important for me. What I had originally given her was another ride to do on Saturday, which would have just been a 1 hour kind of like a zone 2 spin, just to really just kind of like loosen the legs up. Nothing intense at all. She could have very well just done it on the trainer if she didn't want to go outside and just set the bike up and just kind of spin indoors. But what she wanted to run. And so this was a learning experience for her. So one of our races that's on our calendar is the Richmond, Virginia. It's the half marathon. So that is in, I want to say it's like early November. So it's after our Tour de Pink. But this is kind of like around the time where you start to train for half marathon. You usually start like around in August. So you get, 3 decent months, an August training date for a November race. So you get about 3 solid months of run training. So what we're going to do is we're going to split our focus, where our primary workouts for Allie is going to be bike focus. And so what I have is a beginner half marathon training plan that I've developed, where it's based on miles, not on time. And so she'll be running maybe 3 times a week. I was giving her 2 runs just to kind of keep the run legs under her a little bit, but my primary focus has been the bike, which is what she needed and what she continues to need. So we're going to refocus a little bit, give her 1 additional run during the week, structure the long ride earlier in the week until school starts for her son, and try and manage that to where I give her kind of like either the day off after her long ride to recover for her long run. And right now the long runs are fairly short, but she's under a lot of fatigue right now. So I'm trying to manage that, and she's doing really, really well. The pacing for her runs is below her expectations, but she's learning now what fatigue does. And so you have to reevaluate those expectations, knowing that you're not going into your race fatigued, but you have to train under that fatigue. And as long as we manage it, we'll keep her healthy. So she had a long run on Saturday, day after her 4-hour bike ride, which is her longest ride to date. So I tried to encourage her. I was like, just keep it just nice and easy, nice and even. Don't push the pace because you're going to be tired. And she learned fairly quickly on what fatigue feels like. Her legs are really kind of just like stiff, and she characterized them as they just feel hard and just tired and dead. So she's having to learn a little bit about giving herself a little bit more grace when it comes to managing these runs and bikes. I'm not having her go out there running at race pace. These are nice zone 2 runs, because the fitness that she's building on the bike will carry over onto the run. So you're still building that cardiovascular engine. Even though run fitness is different from bike fitness, you're still contributing to the cardiovascular ones, and you should be able to transition some of that fitness over to the run. So after Tour de Pink, she will strictly focus on the run. So we'll get maybe a little less than a month of some run training, just to kind of fine tune the legs a little bit. The Tour de Pink is her A race. This is kind of just like a supplemental thing that she wanted to do that we signed up for last year. So I don't really see it as, a primary race, even though I know that she wants to do well and I want to do well because I'm running it as well. The Tour de Pink is her primary focus, which is what it should be. I had a short brick on Sunday. So I did my long run on Saturday, and I've now signed up as one of the run coaches for the half marathon team for the race team RVA, which is our running club. They have various run groups that they've organized now that half marathon season has started, and they needed another run coach. This was something that I was interested in doing. It's all volunteer. So I'd love to go out and just meet new people and contribute. So my first run with this group was on Saturday. It was a 5-mile run. And it's right by my house. It's not too far, so I can literally just pop in the car and be at the run start, within just a few minutes. So we did 5 miles through some it's a route that I run a lot, so I knew the route pretty well. There was a little bit of some turns back into a neighborhood, which I hadn't gone back into. But what I opted to do is my coach had given me a 5-mile run anyway. So that was perfect. It was a perfect fit for the day. I thought I would just go out and just kind of hang in the back and run as a sweep position. So I typically stayed towards the back of the group, right around where the last runner was, and I just kept checking up on her to make sure that she was doing okay. So I would run ahead and then just kind of circle back around and come back, keep my eyes on her, wave at her, and she would let me know that she was okay, and then I would turn right back around and continue on with the run. So I ended up getting in about 5.2 miles with all the kind of cutbacks and turning arounds and everything else. So, but it was fine. I really enjoyed myself. Looking forward to working with this group over the next 13-14 weeks as we all get ready for the Richmond, Virginia Half Marathon. And then on Sunday, I had a brick. So I switched because typically my coach gave me my long run on Sunday, which is when I like to do. My rides are typically on Saturday where I have more time. I don't have a whole lot of time to do long rides on Sundays. But I switched it around did my run on Saturday, ride on Sunday. But this time, when I've talked to my coach, I need a little bit more brick sessions in my training. I'm kind of having a rough time going from that bike to run. So I'm allowing negativity in my head, talking me out, making me question my fitness. So I told my coach I wanted to get some more brick sessions in, get some, where the rides are a little bit shorter, so that I can run a little bit off the bike and try and get out of my own head. So I had a decent brick session on Sunday. So it was about a 45-minute ride, which I rode with Allie. She had, I told her that, she had a 2-hour ride, but I was like, just ride whatever it is that you want to ride, right around an hour. I expected my brick to last about an hour and 10 minutes. So I was like, why don't you just ride while I'm out there as well? So we'll ride together for the 45-50 minutes, and then I'll pack my bike up and quickly transition and go for a 2-mile run, which is what my workout was, and then you can just ride while I'm running. My brick session went pretty well, actually, a lot better than I expected. So another change that I've made to my training is I've opted to not run with music on my long runs. And because in triathlon you can't use personal listening devices, no headphones, so there's no music on your runs. So all of my runs I've always trained with music, even my rides. So I think the music has allowed me to stay out of my head, and I just kind of just settle in and do the run, but allow the music to kind of take over. But on race day, I don't have that. So without the music, I get in my own head and I start to question everything. How am I managing this? How am I feeling? And I'm ultra sensitive to any kind of like little niggle that I've got. Oh, my feet hurt. Oh my God, plantar fasciitis coming in. And I'm kind of ultra sensitive as I've dealt with some of these injuries in the past. So as a good training practice, what I'm going to do is my long runs with the race team RVA, I'm going to go no music and see if I can try and stay out of my own head and just kind of manage my run that way. And so far, it's pretty well. I did the 5 miles, no music, and it was okay. So, like I said, Allie's going to start her half marathon training. So this is kind of like we're stepping into like week 2. So we're going to split our focus, like I had said. All right. So the next step up is I have a bit of a change in my plan and my schedule for the rest of the season. I talked to my son and Allie while we were in Ohio, and just kind of reevaluating how I think things went and what I wanted to do next. Because I had planned for 3 half Ironman during the year, the Tour de Pink, and the half marathon, with an Olympic race that I did back in April. So that was kind of my season, and I set that kind of like in the wintertime, so that I could tell my coach how to structure my plans, and so that he knew ahead of time what it is that we were focusing on. So after reevaluating, I was just thinking, I was like, based on the expectations that I have of myself, I'm leaving these races really kind of just disappointed. The runs haven't gone well, the weather has been impacted. The injury that I had over the wintertime has definitely affected my training, and I'm not where my expectations had me. So, in the wintertime when I signed up for all these races, I had formed expectations on how I would perform, what I would do over the wintertime in order to get myself ready and see improvement where I wanted to see it. But now I've had to reevaluate those expectations, and it's kind of a struggle to reevaluate them. So I talked with him. It's like, do I even want to attempt this last 13.1, this last half iron, or should I just call an end to the season for the triathlons and then just kind of focus on Tour de Pink and the half marathon? Or and they convinced me. We talked it out, and I don't want to say they convinced me, but we talked it out, and I definitely didn't want to call it an end to the tri-season, because I know that would have really kind of made me feel a little bit more disappointed than going out and doing it and not doing well. And so that's kind of the catch-22. It's like, do you go out and do the race knowing that you're not going to meet the expectations that you have, because it's difficult to change these expectations, and it takes a lot of discipline to reevaluate those expectations. So I said, yeah, I'm not going to call it a quits to the tri-season, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to race. I'm just going to have to try and learn how to alter my expectations. And I talked with my coach this week. He is racing at Age Group Nationals up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I had a quick conversation over the phone with him, just to get his thoughts on the race that I was interested in. So it's the Patriot race that's in Williamsburg, Virginia. So it's like they have a half iron distance, an Olympic distance on the Saturday, and on the Sunday they have the sprint. And so what he was suggesting, in which after I've sat on it a little bit, and I agree, he would like to see me drop down to the Olympic, and the 10K run, that's part of the Olympic distance triathlon, is a lot more manageable than the half marathon that is the part of the half Ironman. And so, I can go out and I can do the 10K, and I have the bike fitness in order to manage it. And so I can try and end my season, on a positive note, rather than go out, try and do a half Ironman, not meet my expectations, and feel kind of deflated and kind of go into the off season kind of blah. So what I'm going to do is I am altering my plan to drop down to the Olympics. So I'll be doing the Patriot Olympic distance triathlon in September. So I have about 4 weeks until that race, and we'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to get some more brick sessions. My long runs are going to be a little bit more manageable, because I'm also split focused with the half marathon training that I've got going on, plus Tour de Pink. I think I have the bike fitness. I'm pretty sure that I have the bike fitness to go out and just do the Tour de Pink. I won't say that it will be easy, just because I haven't done any century rides or any ultra long duration rides. Mine have been like 3.5 hours, but I've done them before. I know kind of what to expect. So when you know what to expect, it's a little bit easier to manage. And I do have decent fitness kind of going into it, so I'm not going in undertrained. But I would rather be undertrained than overtrained, most definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And so I may be a little undertrained going into the Tour de Pink, but keeping in mind that this isn't a race. This is a ride for charity. This is a ride for young women that have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and they provide services for them. So it's the Young Survivors Coalition. It's an organization that's near and dear to our hearts, mine and Allie's. And so this is going to be a ride. So I'm not racing. So I know that I have the fitness to go out and do it. I can manage a ride. I wouldn't go out and try and manage a 100-mile race. Given my level of fitness and my training and the structure of my training right now, because that's just unreasonable and it's unwise, and would just it would open me up to injury, where I really need this winter to be injury free and be able to roll through it and get stronger for next year. So I am dropping down to the Olympic, like I said, at the Patriot. And we've got a lot going on with Tabula Rasa Racing. I got a couple athletes that are working. One's got a half marathon that she's training for. It's also in November, I'm sorry. And another athlete that I'm working out who's actually going to do the Patriot as well. So he's doing the Olympic distance race. And so we'll be racing together, or at the same race. So everything seems to be going well. Like I said, the Tour de Pink is October 4th through the 6th. Check out the Tabula Rasa Racing Facebook page. Pinned up at the top is the link to our fundraising effort. We definitely could use any help that you would be willing to provide. Any contribution is greatly appreciated, and just check that out. Again, it's the Tabula Rasa Racing Facebook page, and the link is right there. It's like the very first post that's up. You can click on that. You can pay by credit card or whatnot. So, and if your company has corporate matching, you can submit that request and have your contribution doubled. So again, any contribution that you can make is greatly appreciated and goes towards a good cause. So that has been our week. Looking forward to a new week coming up. The intermittent fasting is going pretty well. Changing up the nutrition that I've got going on, doing some more meal planning and meal prep ahead of time to really keep the training going forward and the weight coming down. So feel free to subscribe to this channel, and you can see all of the weekly updates that I'll be throwing out throughout the rest of the year and through our races, and stay up to date on Ali and my training for the Tour de Pink, October 4th through the 6th. Look forward to talking to you guys again soon, and enjoy the ride.